So good morning, friends. What a great day. I'm feeling pretty energetic, and I do have to share with you that I actually fasted for 112 hours. So I decided that I wanted to do a 3-day fast, which is normal for me because, that's kind of what I do like to do, along with intermediate fasting. And so I decided, why not stretch it a little bit and see what happens. So I started on a Monday, which was really so much easier because I feel like during the week it's easier for me to fast than it is on the weekends. So basically Sunday night, so I decided, well, I'll just go from 9 will be my start time. And so by 9 the next day, 9 p.m., I felt completely fine. Typically that's what happens with me, is like the first day is pretty smooth sailings, and the second day is when I really can struggle, because it's when I'm kind of getting kicked into feeling hungry, but a lot of times I'm not even going to eat anyways. And so that's what I did. The second day came, and it really wasn't as difficult as it normally is. And again, I do like to do like 3-day fasts, or at least 2-day fasts, and then the third day is when I'll eat. So this time I decided that I was going to push myself past. Tuesday I felt a little bit like in my head about the fasting, and what I tend to do to help remedy that is I will watch Dr. Mindy Jan on YouTube, who is a phenomenal person with talking about women especially and how to fast, and is just a big encourager overall. And so that's kind of like my cheerleader in the background. So I like to watch her when I start to feel a little bit like, not even that I want to eat, but more like just you have to remind yourself, what are the benefits of this? Because again, I didn't feel super hungry. I just felt like in my head, I was thinking, well, I'm not eating today, but I have to make sure that Donnie's still eating. And then you start thinking about food, and then before long, you're thinking about food, right? Tuesday passed, and then Wednesday came, and I was pretty good because I knew then at that point that I was starting to feel hungry. In my head, I was hungry. My body was hungry. But again, it wasn't like so ravenous that I needed to get something in me right away. It was more like that gnawing feeling. And so I just pushed past it and continued on through my third day. That was a little more difficult because I did have to plan Donnie's meal. So I did make him dinner. And then I actually took what would have been my portion of food and put it in the fridge so that would be his dinner for the next night. Thankfully, he is not picky, so he's just good to go with, whatever he can scavenge from the whatever he can salvage from the fridge is good with him. He's not picky at all. So anyhow, he did that, or I did that for him. And then the next day was Thursday, and I asked him, so 100 hours is how long? Because in my head, it's really difficult to, I don't know who came up with the 12-hour day. To me, it just doesn't really make sense. It's like, it would have made more sense if it was a 10-hour day, because that's more rounded, I guess, in numbers. And I'm not a mathematician by any means. So I thought I was going to be able to eat Thursday night, and that was going to be my 100-hour fast. Well, actually, no. It didn't end up being Thursday. It ended up being Friday, I believe, at 1 a.m. So the last day was pretty difficult in that I was hungry, but again, not impossible. And it's really, to me, again, I also like to gauge pain by, does this feel like natural childbirth? Because I've had natural childbirth with my children, and so I know what that pain feels like. And so if it's not that, I can survive this. But definitely Friday I was hungry. So my time to be done fasting is Friday night at 1 a.m. But I'm not up at 1 a.m. And I can't, I mean, I guess technically I could get up and eat something, but I'm not going to get up at 1 a.m. to do that, okay? I started to feel very crampy in my body, and I have to be super careful because I am on dialysis. And so because of that, what happens is your body is in crisis mode. When you don't eat, your body eventually goes into crisis mode. Now, that's really the only word I can use because that really describes what's happening. Although it's not crisis like call 911, it's like your body thinks it's going to starve to death, but it's not. Okay, so it is kicking in and really cleaning out everything possible to get rid of, to use up, to just flush you through, because it's like we haven't eaten in 3 days and we don't know what's going on, but we are going to make sure that this person does not die because your body does not want you to die. So it does all these behind the scene things, right? When you're fasting on dialysis, things shift a bit because of the actual act of dialysis. Now, dialysis is happening because your kidneys have clogged, thanks to probably the American diet. We don't know a lot. Many of us on dialysis didn't know that we were headed that way until it was too late, because we didn't understand the dangers of the American diet. And so what happens is your kidney, like a kitchen sponge, is then clogged up and you're not filtering the way you should be. What happens is you can get filled up with toxins. It's like your system isn't flushing correctly or as often enough. And then you add things on like not drinking water or not drinking or drinking too much soda, things like that. And it just adds to the chaos, right? And so what happens is dialysis then is a method way to flush you out, I guess, so that you're not holding on to all that stuff, because you basically will die from getting filled up with the toxins, right? When you fast on dialysis, it's really important that you pay attention to your body, because which either way, whether you're on dialysis or you're not on dialysis, you still need to pay attention to what's happening. Now, suffrage will happen because that's what makes you healthier. That sounds wild, I know, but it's true. So when you start to fast, your body all of a sudden, and everybody varies at this. My body is so used to fasting that I don't really go into crisis mode until probably 2.5 days, maybe 3 days in. Okay. Whereas other people will get super hungry really fast because your body is so used to the chemicals that are telling you you're super hungry, you need more, and you're not full yet, but you really are. You don't need to eat again for a long time. So eating the American diet has made us turn off a lot of the natural circuits that tell us that we're full, that tell us we don't need more, that tell us that we're good to go. Melted cheese. I'm not against cheese. I'm just saying, there's something about nachos where you're like, I just need more cheese, for the most part, all of our food has been chemically altered so that we just want to eat more and more and more and more. So fasting is a great way to reboot the system, because your body is holding on, whether you have dialysis, whether you're on dialysis or whether you're not, it's still holding on to the things that you don't need in your system. So because of the dialysis for me, what happens is I put in a substance called dextrose into my body system, and what holds it is my peritoneum, which is why it's called PD dialysis. versus hemodialysis. Now, hemodialysis is when they actually clean your blood through, you drain out, it goes through a machine, comes back into you, you're good to go. But that takes hours and hours and several days a week. You're on a very, very strict diet or you should be, because you have to watch your liquid intake. Now, being on PD dialysis, I don't have to watch as carefully, and I definitely don't need to watch as carefully my liquid intake. So I typically drink a gallon of water a day, give or take, because I just constantly want to be flushing my system. And so should everybody else. But I know that water can be a struggle for people, and so it doesn't matter. I'm here to say it doesn't matter if it's a struggle, do it anyways. Drink your water. When I fill with the substance that is the dextrose and it sits inside my system, what it's doing is it's seducing, because it's kind of like a sugar water, it's seducing the toxins that are in my body and my system, what I ate, what I drank, things like that. It's pulling it there, and then I will drain that out of my body and then put a new amount of dextrose in me. That is called an exchange. And that's what happens and what I do every day, 3 times a day. My very last exchange is actually not filling. I'm actually just emptying for the rest of the day, which is what I do before I do my jams, before I go to my concerts, before I go to a gig, before I go dancing. Those are things that I have to do before that, because that way I can dance, and that way I can be active, and that way I'm not feeling uncomfortable, which is a wonderful reason that PD dialysis works really well for me, because I'm able to do that. It's not always easy because of time, but I can manage it. Dialysis itself, though, pulls things that my body actually does need too, because what it's doing is trying to maintain a healthy level inside my system, basically. But what happens is, if I let's say I eat a steak as a regular person, it takes me a day or two or whatever to kind of break that down, and I'm good, right? But on dialysis, it'll come in and pull that, and maybe my body wasn't done using what it needed to yet. So now my body's already pulled that, and it's only 12 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And then I'm going to do it again at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then my final time is going to be at 5 o'clock. And so because of that, I have to watch my potassium, especially, and protein, because those are the things that our bodies desperately need to stay healthy. So when I fast, I'm not putting in the steak, I'm not putting in the avocado, I'm not putting in the banana. And now my body's like, girl. But that's okay, because I've learned how to watch how my body reacts. Now, if I am super tired, like all of a sudden I just feel so sick, so nauseated, so like you can feel dizzy sometimes, because your body is kicking out those toxins, things. They're in there in crisis mode, red alert, that you're not eating. We have to pull from storage, which is great. You want your body to pull from storage. But if you're constantly eating, your storage lockers ain't emptying. And then you need a bigger storage locker, right? We all know how this works. So what I have to do is pay great attention to what my body is telling me. Now, there have been times that I've gone into a fast mentally, like I'm here for it, I'm doing it. And then my body starts to cramp. Cramping will mean dehydration, and it will mean low potassium immediately. Now, cramps aren't great. I'm pretty sure everybody has had a cramp, like a foot cramp, a leg cramp, arm cramps, back cramps. And so what sometimes I have to do if I'm during a fast, if I'm in the middle of a fast, is I will go ahead and break it sparingly. which means I will go ingest a banana. Costco's got the greatest little avocado cups. They're already mashed up. And so those are great because sometimes you get those avocados when they're fresh and you either leave them on the counter and they rot, or they're too hard to eat, right? Like it's chaos. So I get those little cups from Costco, and it's so easy to sit, watch a movie, and just eat a little cup or two. Bone broth is also another thing. So if you're in a fast and you're like, man, I feel sick, I feel nauseous, drink a cup of bone broth. I mean, every fast is going to be different, and it's going to be determined by what your body is going to need. Now, if you're like 6 hours in and you're like, I'm so hungry, that doesn't mean run out to, Carl's Jr. and go, no. That means your body is kicked into saying, oh, we're in crisis. Let's pull from storage. And that's like the best thing to have happen. I think that we have changed our behavior in life because it's like, oh, it's breakfast time. It's lunch time, it's dinner time, or 11sies, afternoon tea, whatever it is that you follow, and we're not even hungry. And so that's why I really like fasting, because fasting reboots your system so that you actually feel hungry again. You have the stomach pains, you have the desire for something to eat. The biggest thing, though, to do after you're done fasting is to make sure that you're not running out there to Taco Bell. You're not running out there for your, extra large French fries. You're not running out there for your seed oils, because that's the addictive part of the food. You are going to take your time to reintroduce good habits. You're going to reintroduce proteins. You're going to reintroduce whatever it is that your body is needing, not wanting, needing. And sometimes that means a couple scrambled eggs, done for the day. Yeah, you're not going to starve to death, I promise you. When I'm done with the fast, being that I am on dialysis, I will always drink half a cup of bone broth, probably once a couple hours before I actually eat a full meal. And that is to kickstart my body, because now that it's been in like red alert zone, it's going to want to start replenishing things. Another advantage of fasting is that your body is getting rid of the old cells, the broken, yuck, aged cells, and you're really rebooting your system. So a lot of times people who fast will get fast face, because it's like you're replenishing your skin, you're replenishing your bones, you're replenishing your muscles. One of the arguments is that fasting breaks down your muscles. Don't believe that garbage. It does not. It does not. And you know what? Maybe those little muscle cells need to get out of there, because they've been there for a long time, just being flabby and hanging about. What a great way to reboot your system. 112 hours of fasting. By the time I was done, I really could have gone another day or two, probably, just because I was not in super hungry mode. I wasn't even in hungry mode, but I did make a beef stew and I enjoyed it. So it was great. It was great. I encourage you guys to do it. So anyways, I'll talk to you later. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.